In this lesson, we'll learn how to add content to a sidebar. In our last lesson, we learned how to disable comments on a page and also how to change the layout. But one thing we haven't done to finish up our page here is to add the information to our sidebar. So I want to take a second and learn how to add content to our sidebar. If you noticed in our page editing screen, when we're working on our page, there isn't an option here to add things in a sidebar. It kind of makes sense when you're adding content in the screen that there might be a little area here that would allow us to do so, but we need to do it in a little bit different of a way. So if I switch back over here to our location and hours preview, we have this little link that asks us if we want to populate our sidebar. So if we click on this, this takes us actually to our widgets page, and this is how we need to add content to a sidebar is in the form of a widget. And we have a couple other different ways to get there, just so you're familiar with the different possibilities or different ways we can navigate to our widgets page. You could also hover over here and come down to widgets, or if you're in your dashboard or you have the main navigation over here, it's also going to be under appearance and then widgets. Now, widgets are just little bits of functionality we can add to our page that pull different things about our website, and WordPress populates it with that information without us having to do any coding or anything like that. So you can see a lot of different little widgets we have available to add. We can add a custom menu to a sidebar, add a calendar for events, all kinds of really cool different things if we want to look at recent comments, but many of these things are more geared towards creating a blog. So one sidebar widget that I think is incredibly helpful is down here, this little text widget, which allows us to add arbitrary text, or if we want HTML, we could do whatever we want using HTML and add it to that sidebar. So I'm going to scroll up over here and collapse this header right area that's been pulled down. I'm going to collapse that so we can see all of our different widget areas, and the different areas we have available to us is going to depend heavily on what kind of theme we're using and what different widget areas our theme supports. So this once again is where it comes in very handy, or it's very important to have a theme that allows you to add widgets and different kinds of functionality where you need them to appear. So we have a lot of different options here with our theme, and we want this one right here, sidebar right, which if we switch back to our page, if we just kind of think about this, I'm going to go ahead and press preview once again. So we can see this, our sidebar is on the right side, so it makes sense when we're in this widgets area. If we add things to the sidebar right, that's exactly where it's going to appear. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse that. And one last important thing to kind of know about these different areas is anywhere you have a sidebar right, this information is going to appear. So if you only want this sidebar to appear on one page, or if you have multiple sidebars on the right side and you want them to each have different information, we'll learn how to do that in a later lesson. But for now, we're just going to learn how to add content to all the sidebar rights. So what we want to do is we want to add this text widget to our sidebar. So if I click on this, you can see it's now draggable, and I just want to scroll up here and drag it to the widget area where I want this widget to appear. So since this is sidebar right, you can see we get those dotted lines appearing, tell us we're going to add it to that area. And once I drop this, it's going to pull up the editing screen, and we can start to add content to our widget. So the title for the sidebar is just going to be hours. And then in our content.rtf file, I'm just going to copy the rest of that content there all the way down to the special notice saying it'll be closed on 10/24 for a private party. So I'm going to hit Control-C to copy that and just paste it right in here. And I'm going to go ahead and press save, and we can preview this. We should be able to see this being pulled into that sidebar. So right here in our edit page, I'm going to go ahead and pull up that preview in a new window, and there we go. We can see we have our main content over here, and now that widget is adding that information we typed in right into our hours sidebar. Now, another thing you might have noticed is in our widgets, we have all this formatting that we've already done, but it isn't appearing that way in our sidebar. It's kind of jamming it all together. So one thing we want to do if we want it to format with the line breaks we're adding as we're typing like this, we want to click this option to automatically add paragraphs. So if we go over here and save, I'm going to go ahead and refresh, and you can see that now it's formatting it just like we expect it to as we typed it in that widget area. One last thing I want to do here, I'm just going to switch back over here to our widget, is I want this special notice to be formatted like a heading. If I go back over here to the page, it's kind of blending in with the rest of our text, but we don't have any formatting options here in our widget. So unfortunately, the way we need to format our widget is using HTML if we want this to be displayed differently than a paragraph. So if you need to learn HTML just a little bit, you can look up a reference, or I also have a Your First Day with HTML course, which is about 50 minutes long. It's a real quick intro, and it will tell you everything you need to know to format these different kinds of content. So I'm going to use an HTML tag here to make this display like a heading. If I go back over here to the edit page, I want this to display just like a heading 2. So in HTML, that's an H2 tag, heading 2. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap that special notice with my opening tag and my closing tag. If you don't know HTML, that's completely fine. You don't have to know it to be able to use the widgets. If you just want it to format a little bit differently, you have to be able to add that tag there. So just a little note there. I'm going to go ahead and press save right here. And if I come back over here and refresh this, you can see that now it's treating this just like a heading 2. Now, later on in the course, I will be changing the formatting of this so it's nice and consistent with our widget heading. So we'll learn how to do that in a later lesson. But for now, we have all of our content we need in our sidebar, and it's looking pretty good. So now that we have our menu page, our home page, and our location and hours page, in our next lesson, I want to learn how to create a navigation menu and how to add all of the pages we've created to our navigation.